After studying quantitative characters of the community ecology, now we come to the qualitative characters. The qualitative characters can be subdivided into following A to G heads, that is physiognomy, phenology, stratification, then again abundance, as you have studied in the case of quantitative. In case of quantitative, abundance is a number, that is the total number of individuals of a species occurring in the when divided by the number of samples in which a particular species is occurring. That gives the value of the abundance. Again, this is a term in the qualitative character too. Next come the sociability. It is given in under 5 scales: S1, S2, S3, S4, S5. And then comes vitality, V1, V2, V3, V4, V5. And then life forms or growth forms. The life form or growth form PPT I have given you have earlier. That is, the life forms or growth forms are distinguished on the basis of the perinating birds on the plants. They can be phanerophytes, chemiophytes, hemicryptophytes, cryptophytes or therophytes. First of all, coming to physiognomy, that is the general appearance of vegetation as determined by the growth form of dominant species. Like, it can be a grassland or a forest. Grassland, the dominant species are grasses, and in the forest, the long tall trees are the dominant species. Thus, the physiognomy demarcates the general appearance of vegetation. Next, the term is phenology. The periodic, the seasonal variation of a particular species from the growth of seed to a germling to its fruiting, vegetative state, then reproductive state, fruiting, flowering, then fall of leaves, and then the death and decay of the plant. Entire life process of a particular species, when studied under different seasonal changes, it constitutes the term phenology. Thus, phenology of different species may differ from each other, and in a community we find species with different phenologies. That is, the composition of community is changing likewise. For example, a species can be germinating in the month of March, other may be germinating in the month of July, and the same species that is germinating in March may be under the stage of vegetative growth in the month of July, and it comes to the flowering stage in the August, and then fruit formation occur in September, and then the seed maturation occurs in the October, and death and senescence of the plant occur in the month of December. So these phytophases, that is the seasonal variations of plant, constitutes its phenology. Now, there is a term stratification. It is the way in which plants of different species are arranged in different vertical layers in order to make full use of the physical and physiological requirements. As you can see in the picture, there are some ground vegetation marked by L1 and L2 constitutes the herb. Then L3, the shrub zone. Then the L4, understory trees, that is trees that are shorter in height, and the top story, that are the tallest trees. This layering pattern is what we call stratification. Now, term comes abundance in terms of quality, not in number, but in quality. The groups are distinguished on the basis of the number calculated in the quantitative characteristics. The groups are categorized into very rare, rare, common, frequent, and very frequent. As in the picture, some are rare species, some are common species, and similarly, some will be very rare, and some are frequent, and some are very much frequent. Now, sociability. The proximity of the plants to one another. Likewise, we humans are social. Likewise, the plants, how they behave socially with the other species of the plants. These are categorized as S1, S2, S3, S4, S5. The S1 class, that is the plants found quite separately from each other, thus growing singly. And S2, a group of 4 to 6 plants growing at a particular place. Now the S3, many smaller scattered patches. 4 to 6 plants in area A, 7 to 8 plants in area B. So we can see some patches. Now moving on to S4, there are several bigger groups of mini plants at one place. And S5 is a large group occupying a larger area. This is about sociability. Now moving on to vitality. How vital the seed, how vital in growth and reproduction a seed is. It is categorized into V1, V2, V3 and V4 and V5. V1, the plants whose seedlings die up soon. They come under category V1. And then V2, seedlings grow, but they are unable to produce more plants. Under V3, they reproduce only vegetatively, no sexual reproduction at all. And then V4, they can reproduce sexually, but not very common. Now the V5, they reproduce sexually as well as are growing regularly. These are the analytical characters which are categorized into quantitative and qualitative. Now moving on to synthetic characters. Synthetic characters, after determining and computing the data on the quantitative and qualitative characters, we move on to synthetic characters. And number 1 under this is presence and constance. That is, it expresses the extent of occurrence of the individuals of a particular species in the community we are studying. So, on this basis, they are categorized as rare, seldom present, often present, mostly present, and then constantly present. Rare, the species present in 1 to about 20% of the sampling units. Then seldom present when the percentage range is 21 to 40. Often present 41 to 60%. Mostly present 61 to 80%. And constantly present, that is 81 to 100% of the sampling units. After presence and constants, we move on to the term fidelity. Fidelity, the degree with which a species is restriction in its distribution to one kind of community. So they are indicating, these species are actually indicators where their presence is found in the community. Fidelity 1 or class 1, the plants that appear accidentally. So they are known as strange species or accidentals. Now, next fidelity group is 2. Here the plants are indifferent plants, may occur in any community. Community A, community B, or maybe in the community C. Now the fidelity group 3. Under this occur many communities, but they are predominant in one community. So they are also known as preferentials. That is, they can occur in more than one community, but they used to prefer one community. Next one comes the fidelity 4. Specially present in one community but may occasionally occur in other communities too. They are known as selectives. They select a particular community, they remain there, but occasionally they can be recovered from other communities too. Now restriction move on to the 5th category, that is, they are exclusive. They are found exclusively in only one community and they will not be found in any other community. Now, after fidelity, there comes dominance. After fidelity comes terms dominance, that is the quantitative character. The dominance is expressed in synthetic form on the basis of calculation of density, frequency and dominance. We calculate a value termed as IVI, that is important value index. This important value index is nothing but the summation of relative density, relative frequency and the relative dominance. Now, how you can calculate relative density? You know the density of the species, divide it by the total density of all the species and then multiply it with 100. You will get relative density. Similarly, for calculation of relative frequency, frequency of the species when divided by total frequency of all the species and multiplied by 100 give you relative frequency. And the relative density dominance is calculated by the dominance of the species when divided by total dominance of all the species and multiplied by 100. So, IVI, important value index of different species, can be calculated and arranged in decreasing order. The first in the order denotes the dominance species. Now, moving on to community dynamics. How a community develops from a bare land. The steps are nidation, that is the moving of the seeds or propagules from one place to another. Then comes their establishment over there. After establishment, they will aggregate, and that is the aggregation of the germules. After aggregation, evolution of community relationships, that is how much they are interdependent upon each other, the interrelationship between one another for the space, for mating, for the availability of nutrition, for sunlight. All these comes under the fifth step, that is evolution of community relationship. Next comes invasion and then reaction to the environment. When they start establishing, they are keep on changing the background, that is the environment in which they are surviving. Then the community, that is the plants, the animal along with the abiotic environment, stabilize the particular community ecosystem, and then it leads to the stable development, leads to the climax community. Thank you.